Mycket kända ansikten här, vad roligt att se. Hej allihop!
Hej på er! Så roligt att se nya och gamla ansikten. Wow! Eller ja, inte gamla. Unga. Men vänner sedan förr och nu. Jättekul.
Vi väntar fortfarande på några stycken här som vi vet är på väg in. Toni som ska hålla dagens session också på G. Så vi väntar någon minut till innan vi drar igång.
Jag är här.
Du var här redan, Toni. Perfekt. So,
Perfect.
let's start. Let's switch language.
Yeah,
all right.
let's do that.
All right. So, welcome everybody to our first mentor session. Actually, this cohort number 9.
Yes.
9 cohorts, Stefan.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, almost 100 startups.
Almost 100 startups
since we started 5 years ago. So yeah.
And some of you were actually a part of the first cohort. So thanks for still hanging around. Okay, the topic today is IPR, intellectual property rights, and how IPR has been, how shall I say, disrupted because of AI. And today we have an expert with us, Toni Nijm. He's been a mentor with Digital Adventures since we started, actually. And he's been running a few really good workshops up until now. And today we're going to hear his aspects on and views on how AI impacts IPR, and particularly from your view, the entrepreneurship and startups. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, me as well.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
So the structure of this session is going to be that Toni starts with a few, views on the matter, and then we're going to end up with a Q&A session. I think probably the Q&A session is going to be a bit longer because typically there's a lot of questions related to this topic. So my guess is that we're probably going to talk for about 20 minutes, and then we have about 40 minutes left or 35 minutes left to answer some questions with Toni. So I'm not going to introduce Toni's profile. I think he's going to do that himself. So without further ado, welcome Toni, and give us a brief on who you are. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, guys, and good to meet all of you. Not sure. Just quickly background-wise, I've been in this space for way too long, clearly. 23 years now, and I'm on my 4th company now in this space. So I've gone from being a patent attorney at a law firm to started my own startup in 2005, exited that 6 years later to our largest competitor. Moved to where they are. I'm in Jersey here in the Channel Islands between France and the UK. That's where they used to be based. Still here. Then we sold that company a few years, 5-7 years later, and I left, started another one called Right Hub in 2021-22, and exited that back in May this year. Now I'm working with my previously largest competitor, running their product and strategy. So, like I said, been in this space for a little bit too long, but I've seen the ups and downs. I'm seeing what's happening now. I'm working with some of the largest companies in the world, advising them on IP, software, strategies, services, how to be more efficient, how to think, especially now, obviously, with the world of AI. So I literally just came back from Seattle a couple of days ago, spent whole days with Amazon, Microsoft, and Boeing. That are some of our customers talking about these things, which is super interesting. NVIDIA, a week before that. There's so much happening now in the space. It's insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can imagine, with not only tools, but also because data is becoming so important, how should we think? Companies like TSMC and NVIDIA, and these guys are more hardware and chips.
Yeah.
Trade secrets is becoming a major thing. So there's a lot to unpack. Anyhow, my plan is not to be super structured around this, is more to give a quick background, uh, some thoughts, and then open up for questions. I've been in your shoes many times as a startup founder. It's more practical to ask questions that are relevant to you rather than just feeding you a bunch of irrelevant information.
Tony, can I ask you a few questions regarding your journey before you get started?
Of course,
Because right now I think it's quite interesting for everyone here, is that you're building a startup, you're building a value, and obviously I think most of the entrepreneurs here are looking at an exit at some point, right? So lately we've been discussing what drives value. In a startup, and what valuations can you arrive at? And I think it's quite interesting the journeys you had, because you actually managed to build quite substantial values, right? In your journeys, would you like to share a little bit about your journeys in general in building these companies?
Yeah, of course. Look, it depends a little bit who the buyer is. I think many people don't really like, is it a financial buyer? Is it a strategic buyer, for example?
Yep.
And that makes a huge difference, of course. But I mean, the one I just exited now because our strategic value to the buyer, and it's a legacy company, been around for 20 years. They're making $100 million in profit, and they need to grow. They've been just recently acquired by Nordic Capital, which is a big private equity firm, 3 months before they came to us, and they need to have a plan for the next phase. And if you understand that journey, you know that they cannot build this internally because they have 5 years. They need to deliver value to their shareholders. So we were not really planning on selling, and that makes you even more interesting. We're competing with them, and we're AI first and all of these things. And they paid us, 120x our revenues.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of like, to compare that with my first company, I get paid. I think we got paid about 8 times the revenues.
Yeah. Which is the factor we're operating with when we do our valuations now. So 120x is out of this world. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I know, but it's happened a few times over the past couple of years where incumbents that they will have the money internally to buy companies, but they don't have no money in the world will give them that advantage of time. Time is of the essence for a lot of these guys, and they need to show I'm making a move, right? Look at Sana Labs that was recently acquired by Workday, the Swedish company, for what, $1 billion or $2 billion? I can't remember what it was. But frankly, Sana in itself is nothing unusual. Like, frankly, you can probably build that with Lovable yourself now, quite a bit of it. But they needed to have that whole AI platform with all the integrations and the brand now, and the money is sitting in there. Like, I'll pay 100x their revenues. I don't care.
Yeah.
So compare that to the previous company that what we IPO'd in 2021, 2020 actually. It's on the New York Stock Exchange. But I mean, when I joined that one, I sold my first company to that company. They were worth about 400 million pounds in value, and that was valued as a multiple on the EBITDA.
Yeah.
So they had an 8x multiple on the EBITDA.
Yeah.
So you go in, you build value. We build value in 7 years. Growth, organic growth, plus acquisitions, plus storytelling. And do not forget the storytelling, because that puts the massive multiple on this, right? So we took that from 400 million pounds to about 7 billion pounds when we sold it. But not only we took the profit was about 50 million or so, 50, 60 million pounds EBITDA, and that grew to about 300 plus million. But we also got the multiple to go up to about 27. So it changes the game completely when your multiple goes up, because you're telling them the story of a future the investors want to hear.
Yeah.
And this is something of
trying to calculate now what the value was. so what was the variation you exited on the last venue?
I can't say that, unfortunately. It's NDA. Unfortunately, I'm under NDA, but
120. Cool.
Everyone was happy. Everyone in the team, I made sure everyone in the company, any age, whenever they joined us, each one of them had actually options in the company as well, which was very helpful. I like participation that way. Everyone keeps telling me it's stupid, but I like it.
I think it was very interesting to hear and good advice for everyone. All right, should we move on with the subject matter and topic of the day?
Yes. So like I said, I'll start from an IP perspective. Honestly, with everything online today, I don't need to rant too much about the various, the general intro to IP. I'll just say a few things. If you have anything specific you want to ask about, do that. But then I'll go and talk a little bit more on what's happening at the moment over the past couple of years, what's changing, whether it's tools or companies or pricing or all of that fun stuff. And I'll urge you, there's a video someone I know created, an 8-minute video or so. It's on YouTube. It's called The End of Lawyers. Barney, The End of Lawyers. If you put that in YouTube, you'll find it. It's quite funny. It gives you a bit of like a view of how lawyers themselves, this is actually created by a lawyer in London, how lawyers themselves are looking at their future. But like generally, it's let me share. I'm just using these slides, AI created slides, and I'm always people tell me my slides are super boring because they are always white. I take away all the brandings and stuff because I'm not here to do any marketing for anyone. So this is obviously pretty clear, hopefully, for many of you. It has been for a while that for startups, that IP, unless you're in deep tech, biotech, pharma, that IP wasn't seen as like something you should be spending a lot of time on. Yeah. And I can tell you this, in my previous company that I just exited, even I made a big mistake. And not because I didn't know what to do, it's just because I missed asking one question as a CEO to someone and to double check that they've done their job. And they had missed to register a trademark in a couple of jurisdictions, both in the US and in Europe. They had registered only in the UK and Sweden, I believe. And we ended up having someone who actually registered our trademark. And we had a battle with him for about a year, and we had to settle at the end. And that was not a fun story. And that's for me, who's been in the space for 23 years. So you got to understand that these things are pretty important, and it becomes even more important when you become successful. Because when you're successful, the one guarantee I can give you is that everyone's going to come after you, one way or the other. They want to steal your brand, your domains, your IP, one way or the other. They would like to copy all of the good things you guys are building. And that's the way to think about it. Maybe even if you yourself are not going to use it much, or you're not going to be, it's not a big deal for you, but you want to make sure that what do you want to stop others from doing? That is the whole, like that's the whole point with IP. You're stopping others from using what you're building. Then you can be more offensive and go on like licensing and litigation and suing others that are copying. But mostly you want to be on a protective side to start with, at least. And like I said, for some industries, that is your competitive edge, especially on some of these technology fields, if you will, deep tech, biotech, and what have you. So various IP types. There's patents, there's designs, there's trademarks, there's copyrights, trade secrets. So I very often hear like people thinking that this is only a patent, like there's patents and trademarks and that's it. But there's actually a lot more. Just last year alone, NVIDIA put over 300,000 trade secrets in our software just last year alone. That's how many inventions they see as something they don't want to share with the world. That's only NVIDIA specific, but they protect it like hawks. Like they have a whole workflow around it to make sure that any employee that comes into the company who touches any of these documents or the trade secrets, they get to sign, digitally sign, to say, we're aware this is a trade secret. There's a lot of theft happening in the space. And the reason they do that, of course, is for technologies that live a long time, and it's very hard to detect if someone is infringing on your technology or not. So you can imagine in chips and silicon, it's not super intuitive to go and do it. It's pretty expensive versus, oh, I can see on the iPhone slide to unlock, I can see if someone copies that very easily, right? So those are very different use cases. So the whole point here, think patents, technical innovations, trademarks, the actual brand that you're using, designs, or some countries they call it design patents, is how something looks like. And then you've got the copyrights and code, text, and what have you. And then you've got the trade secrets, domain names. So there are multiple of those, and the best way to use it is to actually combine them, depending what business you're in. Okay. Maybe the biggest and most important thing to keep in mind is something like designs and patents. As soon as it's in the public domain, you're fried. You cannot protect them anymore. Trademarks, you can still do that, right? Copyright is automatically protected, at least in outside of the US. In the US, you want to be more proactive with copyrights. And trade secrets obviously should never leave your premises. Okay. So then there is the cost aspect of this. And when I say strategically here, yes, what to protect and what not, but more importantly, how much money do you want to spend on this? How many countries would you like to have your protection in? Because IP, by default, by law, is actually a national right, typically. So you have a patent or a trademark in let's say the US or in India or whatever that might be, you're not automatically getting a full global IP right. So therefore, it becomes a cost issue. How many countries do I enter? How much money do I spend on this? And for patents and designs, you can't decide that yourself after a while. You have a timeline you need to follow. While with trademarks, you might file something in Europe now, and if you're using it in the US and you can prove that you're using it, you can file a US trademark in 3 years' time. That might work as well, but you need to be able to show that you're actually using the trademark at that point. Okay. All right, so I'm not going to say much more on that. So the big cost base or cost item really for especially on the patent side is really time for lawyers. How much time do you pay? How much money do you pay a lawyer or a patent attorney to draft applications for you and talk to the patent office on behalf of you? That's really where the biggest cost is. And now in the world of IP, things are starting to change, of course, because our industry is heavily text-based, and we have large language models that are basically all about language and about text, even though they can do a lot more, but it really hits quite hard in the legal industry, not only IP, but generally in legal. So depending on where you stand on which side you stand here, you are getting more or less pushed in a certain direction. So again, looking at what industry you guys might be in, different industries, but a lot of AI generated content now is being printed, of course, generated. They say that potentially already around end of next year, more than 95% of the content on the internet will be AI generated. If you let that sink in, that's insane. Okay. So trying to protect yourself and in that new world, it's going to be a fun challenge. It's easy and great for marketeers and for companies that want to create campaigns and images and videos and audio and what have you. It's very cheap. It's literally dirt cheap, but you're also competing with billions and billions of similar things. So it becomes a lot harder. to stand out, and the landscape of is this actually original or not is becoming harder and harder. And as you can see, there's a lot of lawsuits now happening with big companies training on others' data and what have you, and that's going to continue for many, many years to come. Then we've got this fun part that I'm battling with literally weekly, AI-assisted inventions. And at the moment, in the US and Europe, the courts, the patent offices have deemed AI inventions. The AI cannot be an inventor, basically, right? AI alone cannot be an inventor. So whatever you guys do, you do not want, if you come up with it with inventions that AI assisted you to do, you should never anywhere write or say that this was the AI that created that feature or that part of the patent or what have you. So for now, at least, you need to make sure that I created it, we created it, AI assisted us in some parts to draft it or something else. But you want to be careful with that until such point the rules actually change. And I'm pretty confident the rules will change to allow AI inventors or innovations to happen. Data, as we talked about, just be careful if you're in that domain of training on data, how you're handling copyrights. You will be forced to show how you trained your models and what data that you've used. So if you're in that domain, be careful. And as well, how you use customers' data. That's probably the biggest challenge currently. Every single customer we sign, we have to sign a contract saying that we never train on the data. And if we do, we will be in big, big trouble. So you want to have a plan to make sure that any data, if you are using, probably most of you will be using some AI models one way or the other, probably third-party AI models. The best thing is to also make sure that you have contracts with OpenAI and Anthropic where you have a zero data retention policy or contract with them. So they are not training on your data and they're not keeping copies of your data once you send out the prompts. And then, of course, the fun part for me being in this industry is now being able to build tools that can automate a lot of the tasks that people have been doing manually. So a lot of the cost to draft applications, to do searches, to automate data entry. I mean, there's so many use cases in the space that were not possible to do in the past that now are simply a lot easier to do. I'm going to actually show you, let's see if I find this document. So this is a document I put together that I show our clients on the AI use cases in IP that we are focusing on building. So this is a list of them, but each one of those I've gone through. This is 17 pages of stuff. So what it is, what customer relevance and value they get, the return on investment snapshots, how much time or money they will be saving, what roles will be impacted, and what KPIs to use to be able to measure the impact. Right, so I've done this for each one of those areas, and as you can see, the table here, each one of those rows is one of those. So whether it's document analysis and chat, and those are more horizontal use cases, and then you can go into innovation management, so idea sourcing, automated prior art searches, invention searches, prior art summarization, trade secret identification, and what have you. And then go into trademarks and brands, and then you go into patents, again, like drafting applications and responding to office actions, and so on. So there's a lot of things that you can do nowadays that were not possible before. And there's a lot of startups, both in Sweden and outside of Sweden, that are doing frankly, most of the AI innovations come from startups over the past couple of years, drafting patent application tools for that. You can take an idea and go chuck it into something like OpenAI or ChatGPT or Claude or something like that and ask it to draft a patent application for you. And it does a fairly good job, frankly, but there's a lot more to add into the application to make it something that is ready to file. But at least it can save you currently probably 50%, 60% of the cost that you would have had to spend So the more you can use the tools to build something like that, the cheaper it will be for you and faster for sure. Let's see here. So put together some practical tips as well. So I talked earlier about the brand mishap. If you're intending to use your brand and domain name for some time, make sure that you don't make the mistake I just made. Verify that you have registered the brand or the trademark in the countries that you want to at least use it to start with. And with even if you don't know, take the biggest markets at least, whether it's Europe and US to start with. And if you're going to go into other countries for some strategic reasons, make sure that that's happening. This is another big one. Make sure that you have IP assignments. So if someone leaves, you have a founder or co-founder or an inventor within your companies, and someone leaves, you make sure that they have assigned the IP back to the company. So otherwise, you're going to end up with trouble when you're doing due diligence with investors in the future. And they're going to have to ask you to go chase that person who left maybe on bad terms and get a signature from them. So those things are pretty crucial. Yeah, filing patents, as I said, as I mentioned before, it's all about when you file. It's about filing as early as possible to make sure that there is no prior art that's going to kill your IP in the future. By the way, keep that in mind if you have a patent, the first and the most used way to kill a patent in a court of law at some point, let's say you go sue someone, and the first reaction is going to be that they're going to try to kill your patent. And the way they do it is by trying to find some public information that describes part of your invention before your filing date. Right? That's 95% of the way you kill patents today. There's actually companies specializing in killing patents this way. So make sure not to publish stuff on the patent design side before you have really gone with it. And if you do, make sure there are NDAs in place to show intent that this is actually a piece of IP that you intend to file a patent on, for example. We talked about the data here, so I'm not going to say much more about that. Some mistakes here. Assuming that you don't have IP, you don't need IP. Of course, I'm going to wait until I have money to be able to do something. Sometimes, like, it gets too late. If you're making a product public or talking about it publicly, you cannot wait simply because of the legal framework. So you cannot go publish anything or even, frankly, put demos online or a short video on YouTube just because you want to get. So if you think you have patents and trademarks potentially in the future, you need to make sure that they are completely novel, not published anywhere else. I know a lot of people would like to describe quite a lot to investors in decks to convince them. You should not do that. Not only because of IP, frankly, investors don't care in the initial decks to get that much information. They just need the pitch and why you're going to become an awesome company. This kind of stuff, you can talk about it in meetings with them, but don't send stuff in like about the very important things that you can file IP on, especially patents and trademarks. This is more around how when you're combining AI and IP, there's a lot of interesting things that are starting to happen now. And I'm sure some of you guys, that's why you're starting the companies, because you're seeing the combination of data plus, frankly, the formula now that's actually working very well is data, workflow, and AI. If you combine those three together, you get a pretty successful product. If you only do AI, you're going to die very quickly. If you only do data, your moat is very, like, to a degree, it might be important, but you're not going to monetize it very well. And if you do just workflow, which is the traditional SaaS businesses, like say a CRM, that's basically a workflow tool. That is also under massive attacks. So you need to have the best and the stickiest, and where customers see the biggest value when you combine your workflow tool with AI tools and with private data, not just public data, but with private data as well. That's when you start getting a moat and you start actually adding real value for the customer. And there's some amazing examples of that, both in Sweden, like Legora on the legal side, See Lovable on the coding side, that is starting to add, not, you can go to Claude or Cursor or OpenAI and build an app, but now they're adding so many things inside of Lovable to integrate with Shopify and Stripe and domain mapping and all of these things. So it starts to become a real workflow tool. And despite that, it's still pretty tough for them because it's easy to move between tools still. Yeah, don't forget that again. I keep telling customers, I mean, we're building a lot of AI tools, for example, to automate data entry. So documents come in, we extract data from those documents, map them into events and records inside of the database, and create that workflow, all that in the background. People are still, if it's very important, people are still not super confident, and they still want to have a human in the loop to check stuff. And that's something to keep in mind. You don't need to fully automate everything. It might actually be better to not fully automate everything from day one, but let the AI do 80-90% of the work and let the human be in the loop to check. That's currently at least a bigger success criteria for customers to get adoption. And this is another thing that we're seeing. I met with some of the most, let's say, repeat inventors within Microsoft and NVIDIA last week, and it was quite interesting to see. We are building together with Microsoft something called Researcher inside of Microsoft, Copilot, and we're building something for IP. I can't talk much about it yet, but we're going to go to market together with it. But seeing what Microsoft's inventors and R&D departments themselves and NVIDIA, how they are using AI to speed up their innovation cycle. So it's not about just coming up with ideas, because anyone can come up with a lot of ideas now using AI. It's actually to accelerate the execution rate to get things moving very, very fast into production. So the rate of innovation, the rate of execution, that is really the big. That's why everyone's throwing those billions on everything to get things moving faster than someone else, because they know everyone's got access to the AI. They will be able to innovate, whether you're a startup or a big company. That is actually becoming less of a moat. So I added here a list. I'm happy to share the slide deck, obviously, later. These are just a list of things if you have not seen this before. One thing to mention, actually, I think a couple of days ago or last week, Perplexity launched the Perplexity Patents, which is like Google Patents, but actually using AI search. And that's pretty good. It's really good. Perplexity, to me, is the best search engine out there, AI search engine. And this is the first company who's actually now embedded the whole patent database, all the public patents, vectorized it and made it available to be searched by AI. So if you're using Google Patent for search or the likes, try Perplexity. I was pretty impressed with it, actually. Anyhow, I'll stop there. I added this fun thing here at the end, but I'll leave it at that. Open up for some questions, any discussion, anything that you would like to talk more about. Open ears.
Thanks, Tony. That was a great presentation, great reflections. And guys, take the chance now with Tony. We still have 25 minutes left. So go ahead and ask some questions. Just wave your hand and then we can introduce you. I think while we are waiting for the first hand to arrive here, Tony, I have a general question for you. Now, when it comes to traditional patents contra being in a SaaS business, typically your IP would be source code, it'll be data, it'll be methodology, and perhaps even workflow. How would you say that? Is that all patentable? Is it necessary to patent it, or should you look at it with in a different view?
In specifically for SaaS businesses?
Yeah.
It depends what business you're in, right? We didn't actually spend a lot of time on patenting stuff. We are patenting a little bit more now within Anaqua, simply because we're coming up with new ways how AI could help some workflows, automate certain things. That were not possible before. So if you find something that you feel like, I really don't want someone to copy this thing, then you should do it for sure. But it's a lot more, frankly, combining. The branding becomes more important, and the design, how you design certain things, because the AI, again, the way you can do things visually for a user now is very different than the traditional SaaS. I don't need to start by filling out a form anymore. I can come and drag and drop a document, and the AI extracts the information, fills out the form for me, and kicks off a bunch of other workflows. Just as an example, but yeah.
And you have a certain degree of protection anyway, right? Because the source code is yours. Yeah.
Copyright, yeah, exactly.
All right. I think we have the first hand here from Gert Olov. Welcome, Gert Olov.
Thank you very much. Thank you for a very good presentation, Tony. You're overwhelming me with information. I just wondered, this about an agreement about training on your data. If you could elaborate a little bit about that. You said you should need to have a contract on that and so on. If you please elaborate a little bit about that.
So when we have a bunch of AI to do different things in our platform that we sell. It's a SaaS platform for IP management, and to make sure that our customers are comfortable with what we're doing, we basically signed they call it a zero data retention contract or agreement. So we did that with 3 companies: OpenAI, Anthropic. Actually, we signed with 4, Google recently, and a German company called DeepL for translations. So we use different models for different purposes. And we made sure to have that contract in place, because when we sign a deal with a customer, we can actually show them those contracts, say, hey, you don't need to worry. Those guys they are asserting that they will not be training on your data. And as soon as we send a prompt to do something, let's say translate something or extract something from a document or summarize a document, as soon as we get the result back, they delete that data straight away.
Good. Thank you very much.
See if there's a question in the chat. Should you put in protect? Yeah, so on this question in the chat, Lou, I don't think you can do much in terms of if you're not introducing any new technology. The whole point with patents is new novel technology, so patenting becomes a bit problematic. I assume it's a chatbot. It looks like any other chatbot, so designs are probably not mentioned there. So I'm not sure you can protect it much more than either it's a trade secret and/or copyrights. Frankly, that those are the 2 things that you would be reverting to make sure your secret sauce, if you have a secret sauce in the background, that's yours and no one knows what you're actually doing. So we have, for example, let me give you an example here. We've got a data entry bot. In our industry, you imagine if you're filing, like Microsoft, you're filing 3,000 patents every year. Those then go into 20, 30 countries after 18 months or so in the PCT. All of a sudden, they've got 100,000 patents and trademarks and all of that. All the data that comes back in emails and documents, they need to manually enter into the IP management software. Yeah. With very important data that needs to be entered, deadlines being generated, and if they miss any of these deadlines, they will lose the patent. So we've created an AI, maybe not a bot per se, but a AI workflow that will take those emails and extract information from the email body and attached documents, find the relevant record in the database, then find the relevant event, extract relevant data and populate fields, and also propose to create certain deadlines as needed. And that's a ping pong workflow in the background that the user doesn't really see, but we do quite a lot of AI and database and data and what have you to make it work, which we do not disclose to anyone. We haven't filed a patent on that either, because for us it didn't really feel that we were needed it, but you need a lot of knowledge on how to do it, both from an IP perspective and an AI perspective. So we didn't really feel the need to do that, so that we kept it as a trade secret simply.
Yeah.
So
But
there was no need to sort of protect that idea when you involve other components.
No, no, I don't think unless technically there's something that you're doing that no one else is doing. If there is no technology solution around it, then I wouldn't bother much with it, frankly. But you got to be careful within your own organization, so you don't have people that might leave the company and go do exactly the same thing. You want to make
Understand.
sure that is denoted as a trade secret.
Yep. Thank you.
Maria?
There. Okay, now you can both see me and hear me. Okay, thank you so much for your presentation. I actually have a question probably hooking into what you just said, because we're creating a stress profile where we're using research material from researchers as to how to diverse stress in different things and then measure that and give a result. And so it's very specific based on research and experience from clinical work. So it's unique, but at the same time, my understanding talking about IP is that we can't protect it because it's still stress management in the end, which is public to everyone. Do you know my question?
So is it an algorithm or is it data or what is it?
Yeah, it's data that has an algorithm that answers depending on what you answer in these different batches of questions. You get your specific profile that is specific, and the question. So the uniqueness is in the questions and how they're being asked, and then also how this is generated into answers. But my understanding is that unless we connect it to measuring blood flow or something else, we
No,
cannot
you can't.
protect it.
You should be able to protect that algorithm in itself. So what you're not allowed to protect is algorithms, or they call it business models. So if something I can do manually,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very clear to everyone how it's done, then that's a little bit harder to say, oh, I'm going to do it now with a computer. That's not something you can protect with a patent, at least. But if the algorithm in itself has a certain calculation, a certain way to do something that is different or new, then you should absolutely be able to protect it if it's
Okay.
relevant to you, if that's your secret sauce. So either you keep it secret sauce and no one knows it, or if you got to know that if you put it in the public domain by filing a patent, everyone else will be able to see it. So the question is more of just because you can protect it doesn't mean it's good for business. It might be better for your business to keep it as a secret rather than disclosing it.
Yeah, it is. But we're getting asked to license the material for other companies to put it up on their platforms. So then we're going to have to give away the secret sauce. So that's why we're looking into it.
Yeah, then it might make sense, or it might just be contracts. The licensing agreements that you're doing, that might be the way to actually do it.
Yeah,
So
that's what we're looking into.
That's a very important one, business consideration, frankly, to keep in mind. But yeah, I would need to know probably a little bit more details around it and what kind of partnerships or licensing deals they would do to be able to be a bit more helpful. But definitely a big decision business between keeping it as a secret versus patenting the algorithm in itself, especially if it keeps changing. If you change the algorithm as you go, how much value does it add in a year from now? Could someone copy or make a small change to the algorithm and say, oh, well, actually, this is not the same algorithm anymore? To me, I'm leaning more towards keeping it in-house, frankly.
I hear you. Okay, great. Thank you so much for your answer.
Thank you. All right, then we have Andreas Mossberg. You had a few questions as well? Or
yeah, hi Tony. Thanks for a great presentation and discussion. I think the previous discussion just answered half of my question. So I'm from Propeller Hat. We're building a digital command center for healthcare operations, and Just want to know, I mean, you just answered saying that you want to keep the secret sauce, you want to keep trade secrets, and sometimes it's not worth patenting and go through this. But you said also that in Anaqua you did actually file for patents, and what kind of things did you file for patents applications, and you just explained what you did not, what some part of the workflow process, etc., you did not, and how do you distinguish in between what's worthwhile and not in this? I think it's rather tricky in the SaaS business, with the design and the patents, etc. So I'm not really 100% clear on this.
Yeah. So for me personally, everyone's got their own views on this. If you're a larger company and you have money, you'll probably file left and right. They don't care. And frankly, if you look at the whole patent landscape, even the World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, they say less than 2% of all the patents alive in the world are actually useful or being monetized. So there's a lot of noise, and that noise is about to explode because it's becoming cheaper and faster to draft and file applications. So putting that aside, the way I look at it personally is business value. For me, I like IP has to be connected to business. If it's not, then you're not thinking about it the right way. Just you can do it, of course, for marketing purposes. If you guys remember Adobe back in the day, they might do it still, I can't remember, but they used to flash the patent numbers when you open a Photoshop or Adobe Reader and so on. They had like 10, 20 patents that are covering the product. That becomes more of a marketing thing. They probably never inserted those or asserted those patents before, but they showed that, hey, don't try to copy our product. We've got all these patents on it. For a company like Anaqua that is typically doesn't have a lot of patents, they have probably 10, 15 applications. Frankly, maybe one of them is useful. The rest of them is just for show. And that's fine if you know that you're doing it for marketing and you don't spend a lot of time and money on it. But there are some areas that I think, like I said before, what do I want to stop my competitors from copying? Because if someone looks at the screen and sees what's happening and it's very clear what we're doing, and it's an invention I think is very useful for our users, I don't want them to copy it. I can give you two simple examples. We've created something called an AI classifier. So you come up with a bunch of ideas, inventions, or a bunch of patents, or your competitors' patents, and you have your classification to say, this is how I map this patent onto my products or technologies, for example. Okay, so this patent sits in that folder, and this patent sits in that folder, or those three folders, or whatever. So if I'm Ericsson, and I've got or Microsoft, and I've got 100, 200,000 patents, and I've got 1 million ideas, and my competitors all over the globe, I would like to be able to see one simple classification that shows me mapping all these patents and inventions on, I don't know, operating systems, game consoles, or whatever that might be, the tree that I've created. So we created an AI classifier that takes all this as input and automatically classifies it into the right folder, into the right categories, multi-label classification. That is very simple to see. Everyone knows what we're doing on the screen, and everyone wants to try to recreate it. So we patented it. We filed an application on that. Even a simple thing as, inventors today, if you're working in R&D and you want to submit an invention idea to your IP department, they ask you to fill out a form, whether a web form or a PDF. And now everyone's moving towards, well, just drag and drop that document inside of the app and the AI will extract the information and fill out the form for you. Everyone's doing it, so there's nothing to protect there. But there's a simple thing that, for example, I would like people to be able to email one or multiple documents and copy their co-inventors on that email to a certain email address, to the AI email address, and then you take that email and convert it with the attachments and the co-inventors into something, into the invention disclosure form. Or we are having a Teams meeting now, and based on the transcript from this team meeting, you should be able to convert that, ask the AI to create one or multiple invention disclosures and fill out the form automatically based off of this meeting. Simple stuff like this, you don't think about it, but for me and for our users, it's a massive thing because they do this every single day. And I don't want my competitors to copy this stuff. So this is typically something I would file a patent application on. But so you got to think a little bit, what's changing? What is the workflow change and the apparent things? And the best patents are very easy to detect if someone's infringing on them or not.
All right, great, thanks.
Detectability, yeah.
Thank you, Tony. We have a question here in the chat field as well from Jessica Ek. Should I read it, or you can read it yourself there?
Yes, yeah, I'm reading it. Can you pretend workflow currently cannot be done due to? Can you expand on this a little bit, Jessica? What do you mean that something cannot be currently done?
Hello, and thank you, Tony. I don't know really how to expand this. Do David and Stefan know what I can say, so I don't say too much?
You don't need to talk about the idea, just more of like when you say that it was not possible to do or cannot be done currently, is it like is it an AI doing something with data? Is it you say it's a workflow? Is it something people can do manually?
I'm looking at my husband.
It's basically an agreement that has been signed. They can't disclose, and I guess your question, Jessica, is whether it's a value in that, and whether that's IPR, is that what you're saying? Which is difficult to answer because you don't know what's in it. Yeah, but we can try to answer, and I think it is actually because it has a value and it is unique. But maybe that's not something we should discuss in the open forum.
No, that's why I didn't write anymore.
Yeah, I can give you just maybe some headlines like things that you cannot typically patent is like a legal procedure or regulatory or compliance checklist that you're just going through, or just a business rule that the software is following. But if there are things inside of like the data flow, how the system architecture looks like, or you're using multiple components that brings together, solves a certain problem, then absolutely you should do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
I have a question, Tony, since we're touching on SaaS here now. I've seen that from 2010 up until today, the SaaS business has pretty much dominated the startup world, right? And the way I see it, that's really changing big time now. It's more or less under siege. Question is whether SaaS is going to continue or if SaaS is taking a different shape. With the AI agents, but it's a different thing that's happening. I think we all can agree on that. Now, my question is, will that also impact the AI strategy somehow in the IP strategy when it comes to how the SaaS is evolving? If you get my question.
Yeah, so I think it's the workflows is the big part here, right? It's software in itself was very hard to patent in the past, not because you couldn't. In the US, you couldn't do it in the past, and you can do now. But more importantly, people don't keep software patents for too long because the software landscape is changing. What's happening now is I can literally create an app on the fly to use it for that specific use case and then dump it.
Exactly.
Right? Whether it's a dashboard or a CRM or whatever, I can literally create a CRM specific for our business. I created an app with my 7-year-old daughter over 2 hours over the last weekend, which is frankly insane. Front end, back end, AI, messaging, notifications, all of that with a mobile app for in less than 2 hours. And it works, literally works. So if I can do that without a single line of code, imagine and the rate of change, like software is going to become less and less. So that you're going to be the core components. It is something that, especially system of records, are a lot harder to replace in industries that are there's the compliance, there is regulatory issues, there's very important deadlines like in legal tech or in finance and what have you. The system of records becomes a super, super important one. And the stickiness is much bigger. And therefore, I think that that's where the race is now between all the new startups that have created AI to draft patent applications, for example. They're coming to us and want to integrate with us because their customers are saying, no, 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 I want to do this on my own data. And my own data sits in an Aqua or RightHub. So go integrate with these guys. Otherwise, I'm not going to use you. So I think just keeping that in mind, that software is moving so quickly in itself is going to dissipate very quickly, and so many apps are being developed on a daily basis. The question is really finding your moat, whether it's the workflow, whether it's the data combined with the workflow. It's going to become harder and harder for sure.
So just a question, based on all this fast-paced AI time that we're seeing right now, you're also an entrepreneur and a founder. So how do you think that the entrepreneurs on this call, which mindset should they have regards to this as entrepreneurs, looking for business opportunities to validate their ideas and innovations and so on? So how should they look at it as an entrepreneur?
I think, look, for people like me, it's a problem because I have so many ideas, and it's so easy to build things out now. Frankly, like it's driving me insane. I want to start a new company every single day, because and the more you expose yourself to problems, the more you get ideas by exposing yourself to problems on a daily basis. And there's so many, because I've been an entrepreneur for so many years and I've invested in over 50 plus companies, exited about 18 of them already, and myself started companies and so on. I've learned a lot of the problems that startups actually have. And because, for example, none of us here who starts the company to do contracts or finance or something else. You start a company to build a product and go sell it. That's all. Everything else is frankly noise, including what we're talking about, IP. Like, it's great. You need to make sure it's done properly, but it's not what you want to spend your time on. You want to go build your thing, and that's what you're passionate about. So, but the thing to keep in mind is that, one, you can move a lot faster. Execution is number one. Like, you have to move a lot faster than your competitors, especially in if it's just a pure SaaS platform. And two, don't get disheartened by, there's that anyone can build this now. Yes, they can. I can tell you, as a buyer now in a bigger company, we don't have time. Like, we just want to have someone has built something that is good enough that we can use it. So if you have something that solves a real problem, then you should go for it, because big companies are going to keep buying. They don't have the competence that you might have. And they, frankly, like the company I'm in now is 1,000 people. They have no idea about anything about AI. Like, they talk about AI, they use Copilot, but that's about it. They've never built an app or anything internally. Until we now came on board, and we're changing everything. I just created a chief AI officer in the company. We're now going to start using AI tools and look at what's available in the market. So it's going to change, but I think if you build good enough enterprise grade software, don't forget the enterprise grade. If you're going to sell to businesses, they want to have security in there. They want to make sure that the data is safe. They want to make sure there are integration points. So there's a lot to go for. But I would focus on execution, and honestly, there's so much to go for, and change your direction as quickly as you can if you don't get the stickiness that you're looking for. It's so easy to do now.
Thanks, Tony. Focus on execution. That's a takeaway. Don't publish your stuff early. That's another takeaway.
Yeah.
So a lot of good tips here. We're reaching the end. We have a minute left. I have a couple of questions for you, Tony, before we leave here. You showed us the PPT, the PowerPoint. Are you able to share that afterwards?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So if you can send it to me, I will distribute it to everyone. And secondly, thank you very much for being a mentor in Digital Ventures and to run this session with us. I know that the mentor sessions are, voluntary. So it's up to you how much time, of course, you want to spend on this. But if there is any of the startups here today that wants to talk to you further, can they contact you? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Yes, they're more than welcome. I'm going to be away for the next week. I go to Japan for a couple of weeks, but after that, I'm back here. So.
Yep. Cool.
Amazing.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much. And
good luck, everyone. Go for it.
Very much.
Take care.
You all.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.